In this lesson, we're going to use Microsoft Word to create a resume. A resume is a document that details your skills and training, work experience, and education, and most importantly, the accomplishments you have made with past employers. It should also inform the employer of your career objective and communicate in a concise manner the benefits you will bring to the job if hired. So what we're going to do is to type it inside a table. The only reason why we're typing it inside of the table is so that it's so beautifully aligned, and then at the end we'll just get rid of the borders. All right, instead of using tab, because that can be quite tedious at times. Okay, let's start. So we're going to start by inserting a 2x4 table. So when you get such a question that says insert a 2x4, so it will be like that, 2x4. So the first number there, it refers to the number of columns, and the second number refers to the number of rows. So that means a 2x4 table, it's a 2-columned and a 4-rowed table. Okay, let's do that. So where do we insert a table? The same place where we insert shapes as well as pictures. So we go to the Insert tab on the ribbon and we say Table. So right then and there on that grid there, we can go and choose a 2x4 table. So there I have 2x4, and then once you have your rows, you'll see on top of the grid it says 2x4 table, and then I left click once and there I have my table. Or alternatively, I could have gone to that Insert tab still, and then on the table, rather than using the grid, I can just say Insert Table, and I will get an Insert Table dialog box. The number of columns that I want is 2, and the number of rows is 4. And then I say, okay. It doesn't really make a difference how you did it, so long as it's done. You choose a method that is preferable to you. All right, so we're going to start typing. So the first thing that we want into our resume is career objectives. I'm going to switch on caps locks because I want it all capped. Okay, so we will type in career objectives. There we have it. So these blocks that we have on that table, we refer to them as cells. What I just did is type career objectives in cell number 1. So this will be cell 2, cell 3, cell 4, cell 4, which is on the second column, second row. Okay, so how do I move from one cell to the next? I can just go click in that cell with my mouse pointer, or I can use a tab on the keyboard. Okay, if I say tab, it takes me right to the next cell. Okay, so the text that I want in that cell, I already typed it. I'm just going to get it as a text from file. Like so I will go Insert. This was already done in the last lesson. On Object, say Text from File. Okay, I saved my things on desktop. Okay, there I have it. So it's just the description of the career objectives. So I'm going to get rid of that paragraph mark at the end. That's just that space, additional space at the end of that paragraph. Okay, normally it comes when I insert text from file. So I'm going to press backspace just to get rid of it. The reason why I did that is because at the end, I would love to create the same paragraph spacing after paragraph so that we have the same spacing after each and every paragraph. So I want to go to the next cell that is on the first column, second row. So I'm going to press tab on the keyboard and it will take me to the third cell there. So the header on that cell would be summary of qualifications. And then tab takes me to the next cell. I will go get my text from file again. And that will be my text 2, backspace to get rid of that paragraph marker. And then now I want my work experience. So far just a whole lot of typing really. So I will give you some text and then you can use the text from file, because if you have to type in everything, the practical might just take you too long. Okay, Object, text from file, text 3. Okay, backspace to get rid of that spacing at the end. And then tab to take me to the next cell. And then now we want education and qualifications as a header, education and qualifications. Okay, tab takes me to the next cell again. and I'm gonna go get my last text. Text from file. Okay, text 4, get rid of that. So I have my table. So this is all the data that I need, not all of it really, but just enough what I need for my resume. So I'm going to try to include more, make it look nice if necessary. So I have my 4 headers: career, objective, summary of qualification, work experience, as well as education and qualification. So I'm going to select all the text that is on the right of summary of qualifications, that is on the second row there. So I'm selecting all the cell in there, and what I want to do is to apply bullets. We learned this also on the last lesson. You will see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 summary of qualification. That is a list of items, but it's not so clear that it's a list of items because it's not bulleted. But as soon as we put bullets or numbers on it, then it will be clear that it's a list of items. Now it just looks like a combination of sentences or paragraphs. So we'll select all the text. We know where to get bullets on home. We already did it last lesson. And then I will just go for the standard bullets there. So, but these bullets, they automatically indented to the right-hand side. You will see that the bullets have moved away to the border there. So I want them to be back on the border because it's not like the header is right on top of my list like last week. It's rather on the left-hand side. So there is no need to push it further to the right-hand side. So what we're going to do with this is to decrease that indentation. When it goes to the right-hand side, we says we're increasing it. And then when it goes to the left-hand side, that's when we decrease the indentation, or we put it back to a level 1. Okay, it is on a level 2 now because it moved just 1 space to the right-hand side. So if I go and increase it, it will go to a level 3. You'll see that it will move further to the right-hand side. Okay, so it was here. So I just want to put it back there on the border, put it back on the level 1 indentation. So what we call that, decrease indentation. Right next to your bulleting and numbering, there is indentation, the very first one, with an arrow pointing to the left-hand side. So that arrow tells you that I'm going to move this to the left-hand side. So we say decrease indent, and then the bullets are right there at the border. Okay, and then now what I want is to create more spacing for the second column. You will see that it's just headers on the first column, which is really not needed. So we can just stop there with the border and create more spacing for the second column because it's more descriptive. We do need more spacing for it. So what I'm going to do is to drag this middle border and then just put it maybe there at 5.5. Okay, how do we go about that? You will see that as soon as you put your mouse cursor on a border, it changes, it gives you arrows. On that one, on the raw border, it gives you 2 arrows pointing upwards and downwards. That means I can drag this up or down. Okay, so that means I can increase or decrease a cell or a row. Okay, so what I want to do is to decrease column 1, which will automatically increase the size of the width size of column 2. So where do I have to put my mouse cursor? Anywhere on that border in the middle of the 2 columns. And then as soon as I do that, how do I know that I'm on the border? As soon as I get those 2 arrows pointing to the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So left click once and hold your mouse, and then we can drag it in. So I think it's right, it's okay there on 6. Where do I get that 6? On the horizontal ruler. And remember, anytime you don't see that horizontal ruler, you will find it under the view tab, and then you just click ruler there. As soon as you will need to use it and you don't see it, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your weight. Just go on the view tab and view your ruler. All right, and then you can also change your column width. You'll see that this table comes with the design tab as well as the layout tab. You'll remember with pictures and shapes, it came with a format tab. So if you want to play around with your table, you can go with the design tab, the layout. You also get the height and the width of the table. Rather than dragging and dropping, we could have changed the width from the size in there. All right, okay, let's move on. So the next thing we're going to do is to make use of what we call a one-click, inserting a row using a one-click method. Okay, so we realize that there's something missing here. We are applying for a job of a technical assistant, but we do not have a row that explains that role specifically. So we want to create a row, a new row below education and qualifications, or above it there. Okay, so we want a new row that is headed technical skills. So what we can do, we can go anywhere on that education and qualification. When we get there, we can say right click and say insert, then we can say row above, and then you'll see that we have a new row. So when you've forgotten to insert a row, there's no need for you to go delete the entire table and start now from scratch. Let's try to delete it. There won't be a need for this. Delete the entire table and then now go insert a 2x5, because now we realize that this was supposed to be a 2x5 rather than be a 2x4. So you can just insert what you've missed right then and there. So in this case, we needed an additional row. So we went there, right click, insert row above where we are. Or we can even do that from the ribbon. If you don't want to use a right click, I am on education and qualifications. I can go on the layout tab and say insert above. So there will be a new row. So this is now a 2x5 table. The quickest way of doing this, if you don't want to use both the right click or the ribbon, you can use what we call a one-click method. You will see as soon as we get right there on the border on top of education and qualification, we get that arrows again that points upwards and downwards. If you move it to the left hand side, you will see that blue plus. So as soon as you click on that blue plus, then it inserts your row for you. That is just the quickest way. Obviously, if you're writing a test and then it requires you to insert an additional row, you would have to go with that method because it's the quickest way of doing it. Okay, so what we want here is technical skills. Okay, backspace to get rid of the paragraph marker, and I have now my 2x5 table. Okay. Okay, so we still need an additional row here. We realize that we have missed a header. So at the top of my document, I'm going to insert a new row, but you will see that we don't have a one click on the first border there on top as well as the last one. So I am forced to use a ribbon or a right click. So I will go anywhere on the first row. I want a row above it. So this is going to be now a 2x6 table. Remember, there's no need for me to delete it and start all over. So I will say right click, insert, above, and there we have it. We have two new cells. So I don't want this to be two separate cells. I want it to be one big cell. This is where my header is. This is where we're going to include the name of the resume's owner, the address, the email address, and so on, so on. So I want to merge these two cells and make them one big cell. How do I go about that? I have to first select both cells. Left click and hold on the first cell and then drag to the second cell. So both cells are now selected. Okay, we can do this on a right click or from the ribbon. Let's try on the right click first. Right click and then you say merge cells. You will see that it's no longer two cells but rather one big cell. Alternatively, we could have done this from a ribbon. So both cells are selected. When I go to the layout tab, there is an option that says mesh cells. Okay, so when I mesh cells, they are no longer two cells, it's just one big cell. So this is where we're going to include the name, the address, the email address, as well as the telephone number. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to type in them is type in the name of the person. We are typing the resume for, which is Jordan Stone. Okay, so right on the right hand side of Jordan Stone, I want to type in the telephone number, but I want this to move away to a tab. Maybe we can put it away at a 12.5. We learned how to do tab stops, but the difference today is that with last lesson, we already had a table typed out with tabs that were there, and we just needed to change the tabs, and we called it inserting tab stops. So now we're going to insert tab stops before we type in. Okay, remember when you press tab on the keyboard, it just takes you to the next cell. So what I want is to create a tab in this cell and move to that tab. Okay, so I'm going to set a tab stop at 12.5 maybe. Okay, I will put it there at 12.5. You'll see there's a tab. So I want the next thing that I type to be right there on 12.5 tab. So how do I move to that tab there? We're going to make use of Control and Tab keys on the keyboard. Remember, Tab alone just moves me to the next cell. So when I press Control together with Tab on the keyboard, and then it moves me to that 12.5 tab there. Okay, and then the telephone number would be okay, there we have it. And then I'm going to press enter. I'm still in the same cell, just the next line. So now we are typing the address. Okay, there we have it. Same thing that we did. We have a tab at 12.5, which we set by just clicking there at 12.5. So, but now how do I move to that tab so that I can type in my email address there? Okay, remember it's Control. It is the last key on the left-hand side of your keyboard. And then on top there's a tab. You press Control and Tab together and it moves to that tab. So the email address is jstone@pacifica.net. So as soon as I press enter, let's see what happens. My email address turns blue and it's underlined. We call an email address like that hyperlinked, and it is not professional to hyperlink an email address or even a web address on a professional document such as a resume. So we have to go and remove that hyperlink because this is not a website. Okay, so how do I go about that? I go back, right click on the email address and say remove hyperlink. Okay, there we have it. So that's my header. So we're just going to make the header look nice. So I will select Jordan Stone, increase the font size and make it a size 16. So size 16, and I will also bold it. And then I will change the paragraph after and make it an 18 point. Okay. From this one, let's make the paragraph after to be 18. Okay, line spacing options, and then the spacing after should be 18. So since we set the first one to be 18, I'm going to go and change all paragraph after spacing to be 18. So all my paragraphs will be separated with the same spacing. Hence, I've been deleting the paragraph marker, which was the open space or the white space at the end of a paragraph after I've inserted a text forms file. So that one, I will also go back to my line spacing options. Paragraph spacing after set to 18. The second one, I just changed the font size there just so that everything fits in one page. Didn't want it to overlap to the second page. Okay, and I'll also create spacing after there and also make it 18 point. So the spacing after each and every paragraph is now nicely spaced, and they are all at 18 point. So I'm going to go to the right of work experience. Okay, let me just zoom this in a little bit. And then what I want to do there is to bold the job titles. It's not quite clear what is a job title there, but you will see that there are two job titles there. There's a help desk analyst as well as a help desk technician. So it will be better if the job titles are bolded. So I will bold that, and then I can also make use of Format Painter and just go select that one. And then what I'm going to do is also bullet the job descriptions. Okay, this person worked at Pacific Corporation, New York, during these dates, and they provided this service. Okay, I will select the service, bullet it so that the description is separated from the header. Okay, and then I also want to create spacing between the first job experience and the second one, same place. And then let's make this one a 12 rather than an 18. There we have it. And then also a list of items there. We will put bullets on it, and then you will see that this person, they diagnosed, provided, installed, as well as planned and lend, then also the monitor. So that's the job experience. And I think it will also look nice if we put it on a level 1 indentation. So we're going to decrease indentation the same way we did with the first bullets on the third row there. So I'll just say decrease indentation. Okay. Okay, it looks better if the bullets are on the border there. Okay, what else is missing here? So I'm going to go to education and qualification. I just want to also accentuate the fact that this person studied at Purdue University. So we're going to bold that. Okay, we go select Purdue University and just bold it so that it stands out. Okay, and then the next thing that we're going to do is, okay, let's just check what else is missing. We fixed work experience, we fixed education and qualification. We also worked on summary of qualifications. Okay, it all looks fine. This is what we are looking for. So what we want is now get rid of the paragraph markers. Okay, I think this is a list of items also, so it will look nice if we also have bullets on this. Just remember to increase, decrease indentation. Okay, so I don't want this to look like I typed it in a table. So that means I need to get rid of these lines. So the only reason why we use the table is so that it's nicely aligned. So how do I go about getting rid of the borders? The first thing that I have to do is to select the entire table. You don't do that by going to the left of Jordan Stone there, dragging down and selecting the whole thing. You will see that when you have a table selected, there is a little icon on the top right hand corner with 4 arrows, top left hand corner there. As soon as you click on that icon, the entire table is selected. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to go and delete borders. So you will see on the quick bar there, you can just click on the borders and say no borders. Okay, and then all borders disappear. Alternatively, I could have done this from Home tab, and there is borders on the paragraph scoping. Click on it and say no border. Okay, so we are happy. So I'm just going to make it look nicer by including only the top and bottom borders. Okay, so let's first get rid of the borders again. How did we go about it? We selected the entire table, right click. You can also say, okay, borders, and then you go for no borders. So how do I go about now including only the bottom as well as the top borders? We go back to where we were on the borders, and then instead of just choosing any of the predefined here, we're going to go for borders and shading. When we get to borders and shading, we click on a box, and then you can decide on any style that you want. If it's a practical or a test, I will tell you which style to use. So I want this style. On the top border, I want to make use of 2 line borders, but the line on top should be thick and the one on bottom should be thin. That is the one there. Okay, we can also play around with the width. So I only want this on top as well as the bottom, so I will get rid of the left as well as the right border. Even if it's not there, you can go still select it and put it down there. Okay, so there I have it. I have my two borders, but it will look nice if there's a spacing between that border and Jordan stone there. So I will make a spacing before, back to home tab. Okay, and then spacing before, let's set it to also 18. So this looks nice. It looks like a resume. It's just a short CV of what a person has and who the person is. In the next lesson, we will create a cover letter to accompany the resume.